Hey guys, Matt from the Essential Jiu Jitsu Podcast. Just wanted to have a discussion about something that is very common in the Jiu Jitsu community. It's actually very timely because it's happening to me right now, and that is the topic of skin infections. So it's funny because last Wednesday I found out that I have a ringworm, and next Saturday I have a competition coming up, and so I'm going to have to miss training from Wednesday until the competition, which is less than ideal, obviously. And I'm not the type of person that wants to train with ringworm because it's highly contagious. And I just want to have a short discussion about this because I think that it's something that is under discussed and it is prevalent in the grappling community. So really, what are skin infections in jiu-jitsu? Generally, you're going to hear about things like ringworm, staph infections, okay? Ringworm, very common, looks like a ring, looks like a circle, and it is a fungal infection, not usually deadly or exceedingly dangerous, but highly contagious, and it's something that definitely needs to be looked out for, okay? And staph, on the other hand, is something that can be deadly and can be very, very serious if left untreated. And staph doesn't look like ringworm. It could look like a pimple. It could look like your arm is completely red and swollen. It could look like any infection, and quite often it will be an open wound. Again, highly contagious. So usually staph and ringworm are the two main skin infections that you're going to encounter in jiu-jitsu. They are both contagious by touch. Staph bacteria is actually all around us at all times, but that's not to say that it's always bad for you or that, you get a cut and you're automatically going to get a staph infection. And like I said, staph is far more serious than ringworm, although both need to be addressed and both can be serious. The spread of these pathogens it could be through touch. You can get ringworm through dirt. You can get ringworm through pets. It's common if you have pets that go outdoors a lot that you're going to be catching ringworm from them potentially. Again, it looks like a circle, and I have one right on my arm as we speak. A lot of the time, the ringworm and staph can happen when your students are cross-training at other gyms. And the thing is once your students go and train at other gyms, you don't really have control over the cleaning practices at those gyms. You don't have control over the philosophy of that gym's how they address certain skin infections. You can only really control what happens in your room. So if you have students that are cross-training at other gyms, this can be a concern. Certain solutions that can happen for these, skin infections. Well, I've been told that if you have ringworm, something that works really well is bleach baths, where you make a bleach solution, or you can do bleach spot treatment on the area. Of course, antifungal cream is generally the first thing that a doctor is going to prescribe for you. But if the case is severe, you might need a stronger cream or even oral antibiotics and antifungal pills. A staph infection can require antibiotics most of the time, or even IV treatment. So going to the emergency room is not out of the question if you have a staph infection. In fact, I would recommend you do it immediately. One of the best ways to address these skin issues is to have strong hygienic practices. So cleaning the mats after every practice, and even sometimes in between practices, changing your mop heads regularly, washing your mop heads, making sure that you're using a good cleaning solution. Something that we've implemented at the gym, because we have had some people with ringworm lately, is skin checks. So before the training, everyone needs to show their skin and show their arms and legs. And unfortunately, one thing that is a potential solution is to not allow cross-training, which I am not really a fan of, because not allowing cross-training sounds like some culty bullshit. And I like my students to cross-train because I like them to get training from other environments and learn from other people. But that being said, if they're training at a place where potentially someone is telling students, oh, if you have ringworm, just cover it and it's fine, that's obviously a problem. And I think that potentially is what has happened here, is we've allowed some cross-training and it's come from other schools. Okay. And then lastly, on more extreme cases of outbreaks, something that might be required is gym closure. So closing the gym for a couple of weeks to let things cool down. And I'm hoping to avoid that at all costs. Here's some other things you can do as a gym owner or coach. Encourage public discussion about skin infections. There is a stigma around skin infections. Either people are too ignorant to know what's going on, which is very common, especially for beginners. They literally don't know what a skin infection is or what it looks like, and they need education on the topic. Or there's a stigma around it where people think that it's an embarrassing thing. Okay. I think it's important to be transparent and to open lines of communication with your team. I have a group chat with all of my members. As soon as you sign a membership contract, you get added to the group chat, and that's where I do my behind the scenes communications with the whole group that I don't put on social media. This is important to have because you can have discussions about things like ringworm. Someone's training with ringworm, or hey guys, this is what to look out for. Please don't come to the gym when you have these conditions, etc. Be transparent with your students, like I said, and tell them, hey, this isn't something to be embarrassed or ashamed about. It's just you cannot be on the mats, because if you're on the mats when you're training with these things, what it means is that it's going to spread. Jiu-jitsu, grappling, it's a very close sport, as we all know. We're rubbing up against each other, sweating all over each other. And just because you're wearing spats doesn't mean that your ringworm will not spread. Okay. I think it's important as a gym owner, take ownership. Okay. And encourage the students to take ownership. So you could say to your students, if you see someone with ringworm, you can let them know, hey, I think that's ringworm. Okay. Now here's the thing. It's not the student's obligation to be the enforcer and to tell people when and when they can't train, or when they can and when they cannot train. So I always say to my guys, if you see someone with ringworm, if you see someone with staph or any weird looking marks, you don't even have to say anything. Come see me immediately so that I can make a call, or so that one of the senior students or the instructor on duty can make a call. This is really, really important, because if you see something and you don't say something, you're kind of an accomplice. Okay. If you don't know any better, that's another thing. If you do know better, that's a huge issue. So you have to take ownership of the situation. And that means, as the gym owner or the head coach or head instructor, that you are going to be the one that has the uncomfortable conversation. And I've had to have that conversation. Hey, what is that on your leg? Let me see. Oh my God, you've been training with a staph infection. Now we all have to get off the mats and we all have to clean the mats, and basically class is over. Okay. I've done this before. It's important to tell the students that it's a super selfish move to come in and train when you have a staph infection. Okay. You cannot do that. You cannot come in when you have an infection on your skin, because you're opening up to everyone else. Right now is a situation where I'm training for ADCC Open next week. In a couple of weeks, I got Masters Worlds, and now I got to miss a week of training. And it's unfortunate. I have other students who are also training for these competitions. What if they get staph? What if they get ringworm? Okay. It could potentially affect their performance and just affect their ability to train leading up to the competition, like it is for me. Okay. So you have to make sure that if you have something like that, that you kind of sacrifice your own training for that of others, and find other ways to train, whether it's studying or riding the assault bike, going for runs. That's basically what I'm forced to do. I still have weight that I have to lose. And normally I like to lose my weight through grappling. I can't do that anymore because I can't grapple at the moment. I'm not cleared to. And so I have to jump on the assault bike and go run and do burpees and things like that so I can lose calories. Okay. So it's really, really important to have these communications open with your team, to let them know how important hygienic practices are, and to get everyone on the same page, and also to kind of remove the embarrassment and the shame around skin issues, because really you can't control a skin issue that happens. If you could maybe be the cleanest person, the most hygienic practices ever, and you still get a skin infection. And what's worse, things like a ringworm infection, I've learned that they can be contagious days before you even get any symptoms. So you might not even have any symptoms of ringworm, and you're training and you don't even know that you have it. And then you've passed it on to someone during the incubation period, and then it finally shows up. And by the time it shows up and you realize you stop training, it's potentially you gave it to other people. Okay. I think it's really important that we don't hold grudges, and that we are forgiving to those who don't know. Because if you're forgiving, what goes around comes around. And it's really important that if people make mistakes, that we give them second chances and that we don't hold it against them. Okay. But more important, that we just kind of nip it in the bud exactly at the moment that it's detected, so that we can limit the spread of these pathogens. Okay. Always reiterate the consequences of coming in with staph. Okay. If you come in and you have a giant boil on your body somewhere and it's pussing and you still come in and train, make sure you let people know ahead of time, hey, if this happens, you're going to be, obviously suspended until things get better, but you're also going to be known as that guy who did that. And even though we're trying to, destigmatize it, people are going to know, oh, that's the guy that brought in a fucking staph infection and was careless. Okay. Either you're going to be known as someone who's selfish, or you're going to be known as someone who's fucking ignorant. So don't be that person. Educate your students on skin infections. Make sure they know what they look like. Make sure that you're encouraging that they check their skin before and after every practice. And you're upholding all the standards. When you go to take a pee in the bathroom, you're wearing shoes. You're always wearing shoes when you're off the mats, or flip-flops or what have you, that your students are coming to the gym with good hygiene, and they're really considering how they're coming to class showered and showering after class, and, even down to making sure they're changing after class, because some students just leave in their gear, which is fucking crazy. Now all that bacteria is now on their car upholstery, and that's going to now go into their clothes when they get changed next. Okay, washing your gym bag, having an extra lining that prevents your gym bag from being in contact with dirty gear. This is all stuff that can help limit the spread of staph. In terms of staph being contagious, I've heard or not staph, ringworm. I've heard of people say, 48 hours after you start taking your antibiotics or your antifungal pills or your treatment, it's no longer contagious. I've also heard contradictory literature against this. Okay. So just because you had staph for 48 hours and you've been taking pills for 48 hours, if your staph looks red, your ringworm, if it looks red and angry and raised, you're not cleared to train. Okay. And if you have a coach who tells you, if you have staph or if you have a ringworm, just cover it up and it's fine. No, that's fucked. Okay. Especially if you're training at other gyms. It's really unfair to other people. And this is how things like this go around. Okay. And just because of my own situation and it being a very obvious relative thing in the jiu-jitsu community, I wanted to bring this to everyone's attention. Consider it a PSA for everyone in the jiu-jitsu community, anyone who trains at a gym. It's important that we all keep each other safe, because some of these skin infections can be real nasty, contagious, and downright dangerous. Okay. And that's all I got for you guys. So please take ownership of yourself, educate each other, hold each other accountable. Okay. If you see something, say something. It doesn't have to be in a mean or cruel way, and always be forgiving and kind, but definitely always make sure that certain boundaries are known. And if people are training from other schools, make sure that they know the rules as well. You cannot be training with a staph infection or a ringworm, because it will go around, just like it's going around right now. Okay. And of course, if you want to support the show, links are at the bottom. Essential Jiu Jitsu Podcast is all you need to know about jiu jitsu. Blah, blah, blah. See you guys later.